welcome back to the House of the Stag podcast. Today we're here to discuss the Winds of Winter again, and we're gonna talk about who is going to die in the Winds of Winter. And my buddy Eric from the Grease Goblins channel finally joined me for that one. We've been trying for a couple of months now,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
time zones, and
Time zones are not fun.
yeah, true. Let's just start with the North. I wrote down. I think that Roose, Ramsay, Stannis, Shireen, Selyse, the entire Night's Watch, Mance Rayder, Austin Frey, Arnulf Karstark, Hodor, and Jojen is already dead, I think, but those are the ones that I wrote down that I think are gonna bite the dust in Winds.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I feel like a lot of those characters that you mentioned, I didn't really disagree with any of them. I think they're gone. I think the big thing with by the time we get to A Dream of Spring, we can't have a lot of these villain characters left. Like there has to be some unity, or we're just gonna get rolled like by the White Walkers or the others. It's just not gonna matter. So I feel like especially Ramsay and Roose, and you see like their position, I feel like is being foreshadowed that they're not doing so hot. Especially with you look at how the Stannis camp's going right now. I feel like there's a good shot that Stannis could win, and if not, I mean Stannis could always weaken them for say maybe John Force to come south as well. So I know you did a Stannis video already. I'm curious because I didn't watch it all the way. What do you think Stannis is going to die? Like, how do you think he's going to die?
I think it's two options. I think it's either he is betrayed by the Northern Lords, which would be fitting because he's a very righteous character and the
Yeah.
North is very honorable. So for them to stab him in the back, I think that would be kind of sweet and kind of George R. R. Martin-ish. And the other thing would be if he would sacrifice Shireen and then the first battle against the others happens and they just get wiped out. Maybe at the Night Fort, who knows?
Yeah, I've always said, because my opinion on this has changed. I feel like he's someone that could be like this character that gives like the last fight for the other or to the others while the North kind of retreats, because I think it's pretty much known that the North can't stand alone in this. Like Daenerys is going to have to be involved at some point. So I think the interesting question going further into the story is how quickly do the others like take over the North or land as a whole? So I think that's going to be an interesting question. Like, how much time do we have for someone like Daenerys to help out if a character like Young Griff's faction helps out in this as well? It'd be interesting how long all these things are going to take place.
I think Stannis' sellsword army is a redshirt army for the North. He's not gonna get 20,000, but he's gonna get something, and those dudes are just gonna get wiped out. It's kind of well played by George because, at one hand, he gives us Stennerman some hope, and on the other hand, this is just after War of the Five Kings and after the next one now with Roose and Ramsay, you need people down there. They're gonna get wiped.
Yeah, you do.
Regardless, but I think that's those guys. Those poor bastards are gonna die first, and then it's up to whoever to come in and join forces with whatever's left of the North.
Yeah. So I'm a little interested. You didn't mention Rickon in that, right? On who you thought was gonna die?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about Rickon. All depends. He could die in Skagos. He could die. He could just die in Skagos in the Davos chapter. That's so random.
Rickon's character is one of the weirdest ones. So like I've done like a Winds of Winter predictions on like I feel like pretty much all the main characters. And Rickon's a character I started with that I was like, yeah, I was for sure like he's gonna die like in the show where it's just like he's not that important or whatever. And I did not realize how much the community disagrees with that opinion. But so I've kind of like flipped my opinion on how I think that's going to go. I could see him more being like this person that he gets back and he's kind of just like a figurehead more for like the North where people are actually ruling and he's just kind of, they're using him for his name more or less. It's kind of like Tommen if you look at it where like other people are really ruling for Tommen. And the other thing with Rickon that's a wild card is, well, how wild is he going to be? Like, he's going to be in Skagos for a while. He's going to be a very changed young kid. So,
yeah, I don't think he dies in the Winds of Winter unless something really bad happens at Skagos. I don't know. It's a total wild card. That one is really hard to predict.
Yeah, that's a weird one because we don't have like a ton of information going into that plot line. There's not a lot of foreshadowing there. That's one of the more question marks, I feel like,
Yeah.
of the story so far.
And all we hear, like all we constantly hear from George, like, yeah, unicorns and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, we don't really know about Rickon. Apart from that, obviously, with Stannis, Selyse, and Shireen, I think Shireen is gonna be barbecued. That's something that David and Dan got from George, I believe.
Yes.
I don't think it's gonna be because of bad weather and just oh my
No.
god, it snows and let me send out a raven, and that's not gonna happen, especially with just a Massey being sent to Bravos. Why? There's no reason. So it has to. So I kind of lean into Stannis sacrificing her in an attempt to save humanity.
That's okay. So I haven't necessarily heard that one. What I've heard that I've kind of bought in onto a little bit is that because of the pink letter and the information the wall is going to have at this point, that Mel is already going to think that Stannis is dead, Jon is going to be dead, that she's going to burn Shireen in an effort to try and help her, quote unquote, Azor Ahai, and that's how she would do it. But I could see that being a thing as well. I don't know. My thing is, I don't know if Stannis would burn her. Like, maybe I could. That would play into his morals, though. Like, saving the whole world, and Shireen would be like your only king's blood. So I could definitely see that. So I don't know. That's a great point. Like, when will that happen? Is interesting.
Yeah,
If we
Mel.
go off of kind of the show's logic, it'd be like towards the end of the book, but I don't know.
Yeah, I could see Mel burning Jon. Mel burning Mel burning Shireen to bring back Jon. But my only tiny issue with that is, well, that's just kind of like suicide. Because if Jon comes back and he's even like remotely the same he was before, she's just gone, and I definitely see her playing a part in the war against the Great Otter. So I don't
I
know.
can see that.
Maybe she flees right afterwards, but
Yeah.
she's probably gonna stick around.
Well, that leads us to Jon. How do you think Jon is going to come back
Oh,
if he comes back?
it's either Melisandre and the Red Guard, or it is a mix of Melisandre and Bloodraven. I think it would be neat if it is something completely new, something we haven't seen before with Bloodraven, and Jon warging in being trapped in Ghost's body for a really long time. I would love to see Bloodraven coming into play, or Bran.
Yeah. The interesting thing would be if Jon comes back, and which I mean, I think he's going to.
Yeah.
But does he get like POV chapters, or is he going to be? I'd hope he'd be changed because that's kind of what George likes to play on. The idea, if you're going to come back, you have to have lost something. So I would be interested to see, like, if we get a Jon POV, is it going to be a much different character, or is it going to be maybe somewhat still the same, but just a little changed by his experiences?
I just want a ghost chapter. I really want a ghost chapter. Him being trapped and just, freaking out and wandering around the chaos that unfolds at night and at Castle Black. Although George did say he won't introduce any new POVs, but I guess it would just be a Jon chapter. So I don't know.
And a part of me thinks that's why he introduced like the Mel POV. So it's like he can use that now for this next as our kind of our wall POV until either Jon comes back or something like that. Another thing that I think is interesting, Bran. I don't think Bran's gonna die, by the way, in this, but I'm interested to see, like, Bran can't be a POV, right? Like, after a certain point, you can't have Bran be a POV because he's gonna presumably like know a bunch of information that's doesn't make story wise for us to be in his head. It's like Littlefinger. We can't really have a Littlefinger POV.
It's true, and I think that when it comes to the story, George R. R. Martin is struggling the most with Bran. If you just look at the task he has around, I think he has around 5 Bran chapters in the Winds of Winter. That's probably all we're gonna get, and in that time you gotta both introduce the end game, bring these characters to the end, and just show us how that whole thing really works with Bloodraven, how the green seeing works, and how he develops his skills, and it's just so much mystery. And within 5 chapters, yeah, it's a crazy task.
Yeah, it's tough, and I don't know. Maybe he's just gotta give some more Bran chapters to help explain it. But I don't know how you do that because you don't want to linger too long on Bran being like completely out of the story when you're gonna have all of our other characters presumably kind of going south or maybe holding a point in the north somewhere. But yeah, I don't know. Bran is a tough character for George.
Definitely,
he's a tough character for me to read. So,
oh, so you're not too much of a fan.
I'm a Bran hater. I'm a Bran hater.
Too much traveling, huh?
Well, okay, so there's a lot of things with Bran that like. So I'm doing my reread right now, and his first POV for Bran, it's not even like a Bran chapter. It's like It's like you're getting a Ned, Jon, and Robb like introduction. It's not Bran's POV. I feel like Bran struggles with that stuff a lot. Like a lot of times he's kind of just this character that's viewing other people. Like he's like Areo Hoda, but just in a bigger sense. And then like his character to me is just not nowhere near as interesting as like the other Starks. Like for instance, like Arya, Sansa, they have their clear, distinct personality and stuff like that. Bran is a weird character where, especially early on, he's kind of just known as this kid that wanted to be a knight. He was good at climbing. He doesn't really have that much personality compared to everybody else within like their first couple chapters. So yeah, I'm not a big Bran guy. I definitely think Bran is prone to like getting more interesting and better because he kind of suffers from the same thing Dany struggles with, in my opinion, where it's like a lot of times you'll be having like your main like conflict. So Storm of Swords, Clash, whatever. You'll be having your main war. And then you kind of go off and you go to like Bran or you go to Dany, and it's like they're very disconnected from the story. Like they kind of have their own stuff going on. And I like that at times. Other times it's like I kind of want to just keep reading what's going on with Tyrion, and it kind of slows the pace a little. But I don't know. I think, you know, it works sometimes, doesn't work for other times for me. But I definitely think Bran is due for like a really good book.
So how do you think that whole Hold the Door Hodor reveal is gonna go down in the books?
I'll be honest, I have no idea. I don't have any big theories for that. I think the show did a solid job of it. I just don't think they did anything off of it. I think how they initially did it was pretty good. But the problem is if you introduce like, because basically that introduced time travel.
Yeah.
That opens up a major like, okay, Bran could go back in time and alter this event, and how does that affect where we are now? I don't know if George wants to go that route because that would open up a lot of maybe plot holes or things he has to make sure are fixed. But I don't know. What do you think on that?
Everybody hates time travel. I haven't. I don't think I've ever spoken to anybody in this fandom that was very fond of this whole idea that you can go back in time and change events. But George always said that his magic is unlike others. It's not as nowhere near as powerful. So I hope it's not gonna be as drastic. But it is a thing. Time travel is a thing in our story. So it's gonna play a part. I hope it's not we gotta go back in time and fix this particular event. We gotta go back there and just. I hope we don't ever get into anything like that.
Yeah, because my thing is like it feels like it cheapens things we got in the past. Because then it's just like, okay, well, why don't we just go back to like the Red Wedding and just go, oh yeah, Robb, don't go in there.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be trusting these people or whatever.
That's why
it kind of like cheapens other stuff.
That's why I always hated that theory, like back when season 8 was airing, that Bran has to go back in time to he's all the different and past Brandon Starks, and he has to go back in time and fix that, and it's we don't even know the actual motivation behind Bloodraven, and that's another thing. He might, and I think he might also be, at least in physical form, he might also be a goner in the Winds of Winter.
Yeah, I think he's gonna be like some fragment or some part of him is probably going to go into Bran.
Yeah.
That's how I would assume he lives on. But yeah, I think his physical form is just shot.
Well, let me have a check. Did we forget anyone north? Yeah, again, I think Stannis is gonna deal with Roose, and maybe Jon is gonna deal with Ramsay at the Dreadfort, or when he's heading north. Let's say there's a scenario where Ramsay does believe that Stannis is dead, and he's coming to the not to Castle Black to deliver justice to Jon, who he believes to be alive, and then Jon and the Wildlings just get rid of them there. But I think both of them, like you said at the beginning, we gotta get rid of them so the North can unite against the others. So
Yeah.
those are
Which also
honest.
means all the Freys die.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
all the especially the Freys in the north are toast. Like
Yeah,
they're gone.
Hostine Frey is gonna be swimming. For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. He's gonna have a great little time.
So let's continue with the Riverlands.